Good morning. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about being tempted, tested, tried, or scrutinized. And I'm going to tell you that you must know that God cannot tempt you with evil. It says here in James chapter 1, verse 13, when tempted, or you can go and look at the Greek there, when tempted, tested, tried, investigated, or scrutinized, no one should say, God is tempting me, for God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt any man. But each person is tempted when he is dragged away by his own evil desire and enticed. Then, after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it's full grown, gives birth to death. Do not be deceived, my dear brother and sister. Every good and perfect gift comes from above, and it comes down from the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. He chose to give us birth through the word of truth, that we might be a kind of first fruit of all his creatures. So what he's saying here is, listen, and he's talking to the Jews. He is saying to the Jews that were going through difficult times, who were basically tested and going through difficult times for their faith, they were persecuted. He said to the persecuted Jews, listen, I want to tell you that some of you, and the context here is, that they are thinking that God is telling them to go back to the old Judaism system where they lived under laws, because they were persecuted for becoming Christians. So it was safer for them to go back to Judaism, and there would be less persecution there. So they were basically saying, no, we became Christians, we believed in the good news of Jesus Christ, and we are now really suffering, but we feel led by God because we are now seeing all this suffering and these difficult things that are coming our way. It is God telling us that we should not continue in this way, but that we should go back to the old Judaism system of laws and regulations and so forth. And then he says here, listen, God cannot change. That which came from heaven, Jesus Christ, the gift of grace, is a perfect gift. It's a perfect gift. It doesn't lack anything. It doesn't need a amalgamation between law and grace. You don't have to mix these things. You can just take the message of the gospel and know that when you are persecuted for the gospel, that persecution and the difficult times that comes your way is not God bringing difficult times of your life wherein he is guiding you and leading you through difficult times. That is not how it works. He says here, do not be deceived, brothers and sisters. Every good and perfect gift comes from above. It comes down from the Father of lights, who does not change. So what it's saying is, listen, God is not tempted to go back to the old system where you must live by the power of your own will, where you must live according to laws and not according to him bringing forth life in you. He's not tempted to take you back to that. With him is no shadow of turning. When he brought Jesus, when he gives it by grace, he's not going to change. As a matter of fact, even the Old Testament was prophesying about the new. God was never under the law system from his perspective. The law was given just to point you to Jesus Christ. And now that you've received Jesus Christ, you're not going to turn back to the old law systems, the old work systems, where you are sin conscious and where you must now pull up your socks and try and live better and live holy. No, God has brought forth a system where, as we've heard this whole week, it's about him bringing forth fruit in us, where it's about understanding, where we connect ourselves with who Jesus is, from where God, by the power of the resurrection, brings forth a holy life in us. That is what it is about. And he says here clearly, he says, when you are tempted, when you come to a place where you feel you want to go back to the old law system, you want to have things done by the power of your own will, where it is your willpower and you obeying laws and all those kind of things, wherein you produce the fruit from yourself. He says, when you're tempted to go back to that, don't say, I'm tempted of God. It says, for God cannot be tempted with evil. Since God cannot be drawn back into or drawn into something that's other than himself. He says that cannot happen to God. God cannot be tempted to get you back to the old systems. Neither does he tempt anyone. That means that God can never bring forth a desire inside you to go back and mix law with grace. He cannot do that. He sticks to the gospel of grace. He says here, and I read from verse 16 here, don't be deceived, my dear brothers and sisters. Every good and perfect gift comes from above. He says, don't be deceived. Don't think that this thing of Jesus that died, that was raised, and him that pours out the Spirit on you is imperfect, and that you have to mix it with some of the old things as if the gift, Jesus and what is done, the gift of grace, is not perfect. It is perfect, and it comes from above, and it comes from God, who cannot change and who would never let you go back to the old system that is not productive, wherein you just see your sins come forth and you cannot see the life that God has given you freely. God cannot be tempted with evil, neither can he tempt you with evil. So when anybody thinks that he's tempted, tested, tried, or scrutinized to go back to the old law system and abandon the simple message of grace, no, it's not from God. He cannot change. Grace is a perfect gift. Just stay in that simple message, and you'll see God bearing much fruit in you. God bless.